So I know I ended the Wolverine video by saying, I hope Deadpool is just a fresh start, something I can enjoy just as one movie, not mixed up in this Fox X-Men timeline nonsense. But I'm not gonna lie, in the first 10 or 15 minutes when Deadpool said he was searching for the guy that did this to him a year ago, I was like, oh boy, more retconning! I was a little bummed. Even though I was hoping for a fresh start, I was a little bummed that the brief Deadpool origin that we got in X-Men Origins got retconned as well. Not because I had any specific love for how that character was originally portrayed, more just like after the whole Wolverine craziness, I just felt like I was starting to waste my time. Like, this is frustrating for me watching it now. I can't imagine what it was like for people watching it in real time. And of course, once I realized that this was basically a completely new character, even though it was still being played by Ryan Reynolds, I had to do some more internet research. Luckily, it did not take as long to figure out as it did with the whole Wolverine timeline. But apparently, the 2009 version was not very accurate to the comics, and a lot of fans were upset about how the character was portrayed in general, and the backstory, the origin story here in the 2016 movie is much more comic book accurate and much more something that the fans would enjoy. And look, I'm not going to complain about a studio changing something to be more what the fans are looking for. I mean, I have Zack Snyder Justice League figures in the background, so I get it. And for those that really care about this, I'm glad that they ended up doing this new story for you. And I know having Deadpool in the title might bring some new viewers that haven't necessarily seen the other videos in my series. So you know, I'm watching the 3 Wolverine movies and the 2 Deadpool movies for the first time, so I can get ready for the characters to be brought into the MCU in late July. So if you like my style and want to like this video to help out with the algorithm, I'd really appreciate it. Subscribe to my channel. Check out the 2 previous videos before this one about the 2 Wolverine movies, and then join me for Logan and Deadpool 2. And I hope to see you there, especially in the comments. So of course, I remember when this movie came out, it was a big deal. People loved it. So we're just going to jump right into the numbers here before I start getting ahead of myself. So it is certified Rotten Tomatoes fresh. The first, it's only the 3rd movie, but the first of my watch series here that was certified fresh, 85% and a 91% audience score. So this definitely tracks, those numbers definitely track with how much I remember people loving the movie when it came out. And boy, oh boy, wait until I give you these numbers. $782 million on a $58 million budget. Man, I gotta be honest, I can't believe that movie only cost $58 million. I know it wasn't anything grand scale. It was a pretty, lower level, street level comic book movie, but still. It honestly reminded me of how DC pulled off making the Joaquin Phoenix Joker movie for $55 million. And of course, that made over $1 billion. So props to Fox and DC for pulling this off here in the late 2010s. Disney MCU was the odd man out in that one, because they can't make a movie for less than $200 million to save their lives. Now, if you're watching this, you probably already know that this movie is known for being very funny and definitely pushing that R rating. Now, I have to say, I did laugh numerous times. Actual laugh out loud moments, probably 3 or 4 for me. In my opinion, not the funniest comic book movie or comic book movie series made. I actually laugh more watching Guardians. But no doubt, very funny. So many like those type of scenes throughout. It's hard to remember all of them. Some of them is when he's looking for Francis and he's just showing people the little drawing he did with crayons as if it looks anything like the actual person. That was hilarious. His little friend at the bar. See if I can figure out real quick who played him. TJ Miller. That's an ultimate that guy for me. Like, every time I see him in a movie, I'm like, oh, that character's about to be on point. But I always forget his name. Very funny dialogue with him. Towards the end when he's looking at Deadpool all serious and he's like, look, man, I'd go with you, but I don't want to. I'm definitely stealing that. I'm definitely stealing that line for my life. A lot of instances like that, again, I'd have to write them down while watching, and that's just not something I want to do because I want to enjoy the movie in the moment. But the fight choreography, the battle scenes, on point. Again, very impressive. They pulled this off for $58 million. It was also funny to see Gina Carano in a movie, but before The Mandalorian even came out, because I didn't know who she was until The Mandalorian. Obviously, there's a lot of drama about her getting kicked off the show and whatnot, but it was funny to. It's always funny when you see someone you know in a movie from before they were famous. And all the scenes with her and the Ajax character in the lab when they're basically torturing people to try to get their mutant gene to show themselves, that was all really well done. That's not something in this universe I ever really thought of before. Ryan Reynolds' wittiness, he nailed it. He's the perfect casting. It's actually ironic to me that they nailed the casting back in 2009, even though that character didn't end up being the character that he got famous playing him for. He ended up playing a different version of the character, basically, but they nailed the casting way back when. For a movie that contains a Star Wars joke in the middle when he's laying in bed with his girl and she's like, no, it's not Star Wars Empire. And he's like, oh my God, did I create you? But I can't believe in a movie, again, that made a Star Wars joke, no one cracked a joke about how our man turned into Anakin. I mean, he got the full Obi-Wan burning in the lava treatment, and not one person made the joke. I was actually very disappointed about that. I was hoping T.J. Miller's character would actually come through with that joke at the bar, but alas, it never happened. It was also funny to see that they threw some like F-list or D-list X-Men characters into this to, again, tie into the Fox universe without actually relying on any story. There was a Wolverine joke in the beginning. Deadpool's doing a lot of talking to the audience in this movie, and he's like, I know what you're thinking. Whose balls did I have to scratch or maybe lick? One of those to get my own movie. And then he says it rhymes with Wolverine. So there's a little backstory here to go with the Deadpool and Wolverine movie that's about to come out about how these characters may know each other. They did know each other from X-Men Origins, but I'm not sure how much of that will make its way into the movie. Knowing about all the fourth wall and how all the wink towards the audience that was in Deadpool 1, I wouldn't be surprised if they just pick and choose what they want from the 2009 movie and just know that we'll accept it. We don't really care. I also like that even though it was a new version of the character, they still made references about how he used to work for like a special task force and he had the swords. He didn't just magically get with the sword play once he got powers. Like he already had background with the two swords. Which is kind of a callback to his role in the first movie. So that was nice to see, at least, that they kept that in there. So audiences would at least know, it's like, okay, this is a different version of the character, but we still know, like, what, in some sense, we know what he was doing before this movie started. I can't say I have, like, any blatant negatives about this movie, unlike the two Wolverine movies that I watched. I will say, and I like tracking things like this, the flashback backstory, along with the opening scene with the taxi driver and the fight on the overpass, that lasted for an hour and 4 minutes. That is in a movie that's only an hour 45, that is a big chunk of the movie that's just backstory. Basically, you get all that, and then you have like 10 minutes of setting up the final battle, and then you're straight into it. So some could say that's a positive, I'm sorry. It wasn't like a straight up negative to me, but that is a long time to set up the actual plot of a film. But the flashback scenes were done really well. We got all the information we needed about the character, and it built the character up nice. I'll have to say, for a movie that was received and marketed as being really funny, it was actually pretty sad as well. Like, I actually felt for Wade Wilson in Deadpool. I felt for his girlfriend. I battle anxiety problems, so like I know what a nervous stomach feels like. And watching the movie, I actually could feel it a little bit when he was trying to show his new face to her and he just couldn't do it. He couldn't bring himself to do it. I actually felt that. So I'm not gonna lie, I had a grade in mind for this movie, and as I talk about it out loud, even though I'm here by myself, I think I might increase the grade a little bit, because the more I talk about it, it's like, dang, this movie actually was really well done. Like, it's not just empty humor. Again, it makes us care about the characters, even though we're meeting all of them for the first time. So I'll just say, I'll give the movie a B+. I was thinking I was going to give it a B, but again, as I talk through it now, I'm going to land on a B+. B+ for Deadpool 1. Much better than the C+ I gave X-Men Origins Wolverine, and then the D+ I gave the Wolverine. So we're on the right track here as we get closer to Deadpool and Wolverine in late July. we are getting closer to a build-up, something that I can actually look forward to as I go to the movie theater for what is being marketed as the MCU's big return. Dang, that was actually a really good take. I'm mad that I said I couldn't say return correctly. The MCU's big return to the big screen. Also, I just remembered to bring up that awesome post-credit scene where he's just saying, "Why you still sitting here? We couldn't afford a actual post-credit scene. We ran out of money. Like, go home." Very funny. And again, very fourth wall, very talking to the audience. I appreciated that. It kind of reminded me of in Barbie when they're making the point about how Barbie's not pretty anymore, and then the voice comes on as like, "Note to director: if you want this point to land, do not cast Margot Robbie to play Barbie." It reminded me of that. Obviously, there were numerous occasions in this movie where there's voiceover or Deadpool talking to the audience, and I know that that's part of why people loved it so much. So, hey, it hit for me as well. And I'll close with this. Even though I liked it a lot, and again, I gave it the B+, I am surprised it made $780 million. That's a lot of money for an R-rated comic book character that most people have never heard of. Again, in the beginning, he straight up says to the audience, "You're probably wondering how I got my own movie." The Guardians movies make like high 700s on the box office. And those had the MCU train behind it with tied-in stories. Chris Pratt's a big box office draw. People know James Gunn. This made just as much. It didn't tie into anything. And it was really just word of mouth, which is incredible. Props to everyone involved making this movie. They escaped the show that is the Fox X-Men universe. It'll be interesting to see how Disney handles the character, I'll say that. But next up is Logan. I might have to do some even more research on my Wolverine stuff because I know that the timelines for what version of Wolverine this is are really scrambled. Again, it's probably not even a sequel to the Wolverine. It might be a sequel to other parts of the character. So I want to thank you for joining me and for checking out my channel, and I will see you guys in the Logan video. Peace.